Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Casey, and I've started this channel, Recipes for the Cooking Impaired, just for my son. He's in the Air Force, and he's been away from home for about a year, and now that he's off base, he really doesn't know how to cook anything. He was always too busy when he was at home to teaching, so now I'm making his videos to help him with a few of the main things he would like to eat, simple recipes. And I hope these help other people too. And for my chili, I've started with 4 pounds of ground beef that I've already browned and drained. And there are a few other things you need. And this is a large pot of chili. If you don't want a lot of leftovers, or if you don't have a big family, just split it in half. But you'll need tomato juice. You need just under a half a cup, or just over a third a cup of chili powder. A can of crushed tomatoes, 28 ounces. 2 cans of 15-ounce chili beans. Minced garlic. Just some black pepper. And then diced green chilies and diced jalapenos. Some cumin. Some cinnamon and salt. And I've already diced up a whole yellow onion. Once you have your hamburger browned and drained, just put it back in the same pan you cooked it in. I use a large pan. This is my chili pot. My family knows that I'm serious about making a pot of chili whenever I break this out of storage. Every year I'll make 3 or 4 pots of chili, but the first one, it's usually mid-October. And the hamburger I usually use a ground chuck. Just regular grind is fine. It doesn't need to be coarse unless you want it to be. And once you have it browned, I start by putting it on medium heat. And you add in your onions and your garlic. Alright, I've added in my onion and about 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. And you just want to get it all stirred up and starting to cook the onion down a little. And this is the point where I usually go ahead and add my salt. I don't usually measure, but that's about a tablespoon of salt. And I'll usually do about a tablespoon and a half. And then go ahead and add black pepper. About a teaspoon. And then stir it all in. And now I'm going to turn my heat up to medium high and add in a can of tomato juice. Then we'll go ahead and add in our crushed tomatoes. And don't need to worry about draining off any of the juice. It's just more of a tomato puree, but it is the crushed tomatoes. And now we'll add in our chili powder. And get it all stirred in. And then add in our cumin. Which right now I only have enough left in this bottle for about a teaspoon. But we need a little closer to a tablespoon. Okay, so now we've added all our spices. And go ahead and give it a stir one more time. And then we'll start adding in our diced peppers. And you can use fresh, but since this is mainly for a 19-year-old boy to use, he's probably not going to want to cut up much of anything. And you can add a lot more seasonings and make it more complex, but this is just a really good, hearty chili. It doesn't have to be complex to make a good chili. And I do drain the juice off of my peppers. Just add in both of your small cans, and each can is about 4 ounces. And if you like it a real spicy, you can use 2 of each if you want. But for my family, we tend to like it a little more mild. Now we do have one more seasoning to add, and it's not something that most people use. I add about a teaspoon or a little under of ground cinnamon. It doesn't take much. In fact, it's probably about a half a teaspoon. About that much. Didn't add my salt yet either, did I? Okay. And cooking at my age, sometimes I forget if I've already added something or not. You figure it out in the end if you double add your salt. And I drain the juice off the beans. And while I'm using chili beans, you can use pinto beans or kidney beans. If I use a kidney bean, I usually use the light red kidney beans. But the chili beans or pintos are usually more tender. And draining your beans gets a little messy. So now everything's been added to our chili. It's just time to get it to boiling. And once we get it to a boil, we'll put our heat down to low. On an electric stove, I usually put it on about 2, which is almost as low as you can go, and let it simmer for a minimum of 3 hours. You can rush it a little bit, but the longer you let it simmer, the more the flavors come out. And chili is one of the things that you put in the fridge, eat it the next day, and it tastes even better. And it freezes well, so if you have a lot of leftovers, take half of it for supper and the rest of it put in the freezer, and it's good in the freezer. If you put it in a good Tupperware, it'll be good in the freezer for a year. It never lasts that long here, especially with 3 boys in and out of the house. Now 2 of them don't live here. They're grown and out of the house, but they still stop by once in a while. So we're going to let that simmer, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. I've got it to where it's just about to where it needs to simmer. And one other ingredient, you don't have to put it in, but I do think it adds a little something to the flavoring, is a little bit of whiskey. Doesn't have to be good whiskey. In fact, you don't want to use good whiskey on it when you can use cheap. I had just a little travel size of some Johnny Walker, and it's not my favorite. Now, can't add a little to the whiskey without taking a little snort just to make sure it's alright. But I'll put a little over a shot's worth in it, and it will cook out of your chili, but it will just seems to bring all the flavors together a little better. Either that, or maybe I just want to snort of whiskey, I don't know. But that's the way I usually make it. And now that I have it to a slight boil, we'll go ahead and turn the heat down and let it simmer.